All right. All right, so that's your little intro. Okay, what I want to do. There we go. All right, so here we are. Come on in. Broadway musicals, European influences, that's the topic of this trip. We'll talk about if you have to take it for credit or no. The answer is no, but if you want to take it as the Broadway class and get 3 credits for it, you can, but you don't have to. And that is important to know because you may, like, I have a friend who is an administrator at Kutztown. If you go on a trip like this at Kutztown, you must be enrolled for the class. So you might have friends who've done something like this at another university where you have to be enrolled. For this, you don't have to. You just may if you want to, okay? So we'll talk about that. Regardless of if you're enrolled for the class or not, the topics are going to be the same, right? You're going to go through the same stuff as the class. It's just you won't be getting academic credit for it. So everyone, I want to introduce you to my comrade, who's also going to be a faculty member on the trip, Professor Sims. Yay! Yay! I'm gonna start by just running through the itinerary quick, just so you see where we're going, and then I have all kinds of details and all that. Okay. So what I would love for you to do is like make mental note or jot down the questions that arise, and then if I don't end up answering them, definitely ask, okay? So this trip that will, right now it looks like we're gonna depart on July 25th. We'll go straight to, there is a flight that is direct, no layover, from Newark Airport to Venice. So we'll go straight to Venice, which is in Italy. And I love Venice very much. Some of you have been to Venice, right? Sarah's been to Venice. Venice looks like a fish. So this is Venice, and instead of using taxis to get around Venice, you use boats. In Vaporetto, there's the bus system is a boat system, which is really awesome. And just so you can see this right here, can you try to mess with the lights a little? This right here is St. Mark's Square. It looks a little fuzzy, I don't know why, but this is St. Mark's Square. That's where St. Mark's Basilica is. It's the big, like it's in movies a lot. Our hotel is right there, right behind St. Mark's. So we are right in the thick of it. You're gonna love it. So we'll go see St. Mark's Square. Mostly what I love about this is there's an airport there. Venice is an amazing place that may not be there in 50 years because of global warming and sea levels rising. So it's neat to be able to go see it while it's still a place that we can visit. As far as the topic of Broadway, I mean, this is kind of the birthplace of opera, but really this is going to be a great place to start because we can kind of get over jet lag and be pretty relaxed here as we get used to changing time zones by 6 hours. So we'll arrive in Venice and we'll have 2 nights in Venice. And we'll do some things, but mostly it'll be a chance to just get our legs and get ready for the trip to start. Venice is very contained. It's an island, so you can't really get lost. I mean, you can get lost, but you can't get that lost because eventually the water hems you in, and every sign you see, every person you see can point you to St. Mark's. So this is the big, like, everything leads to St. Mark's. So you will have some free time right away at the as we get there to explore Venice, super safe, all of that. Okay, after 2 nights of recovery in Venice, we're gonna get on a train and go to Verona. And this is actually the Roman amphitheater that we will be in watching Aida. So we're going to watch the opera of Aida and talk about how later it became a musical adaptation. So this is a picture that one of our students took when we were there in 2019 of a different opera. But it's Traviata here. But the spectacle is amazing. So this is a Colosseum that the Romans built, and the acoustics are great. There's no amplification, and we sit like, I don't have a cursor. We sit in the nosebleed seats because they're cheap, and you can still hear everything. It's pretty amazing. And the spectacle is quite amazing. So anyway, we'll talk about this venue, and we will be staying right in the square too. So you'll have within probably a 5-minute walk of this arena is where our housing will be. So we'll be right in the thick of this. So we'll end up with 4 nights in Italy is the plan. Then we're going to either train or bus up to Salzburg, Austria. So we'll have kind of a travel day getting up there. This is my daughter. That's in Munich. That's a pretzel. What? You were 12. That's true. And you haven't changed a bit. Anyway, we're going to Salzburg. And the big exciting thing we'll do there is the Sound of Music bike tour, which is so fun. It's so fun. So this is where Sound of Music took place, and it's also where the filming of the original movie was. So we'll go on this amazing little tour, and we'll see all of the filming locations, and we'll be singing Do Re Mi the whole time, and we'll do the dance on the steps and all this stuff. It's really, really fun. But it's also the birthplace of Mozart, and while we're there, the Salzburg Festival will be happening. So if you are interested in like opera, I'm pretty sure Professor Sims and I will be going to some operas while we're there. So there are some extra things for you to do in addition to the awesome things that happen in Salzburg. It's in the Alps. It's beautiful. You will enjoy it. And then we'll take a train to Munich, and we'll be flying out of Munich. So we will be in Germany for a little bit. And then the plan now is to fly to Paris from Munich. So this will be, right now, this is the only internal European flight that I have scheduled, subject to change. Because once I figure out how many people are going, then I start getting deals. In some cases, it might be cheaper for us to fly point to point than it is to take a train. So I'll be working on all those details when I have a full cadre of how many people are actually going. So we're going to go to Paris. We have 3 nights in Paris, and we stay in a hotel that is about a mile walk from the train station. So that's exciting. And it's really close to where Poulenc lived. Yeah. And we can walk everywhere. When we were there, some of the metro was down, and we could still walk to almost everything we needed. How many steps did you put in that one day, Allegra? Was that the 30,000? Yeah. So you will be walking a lot, by the way. But we're also going to take mass transit and stuff. While we're in Paris, we have a tour of the Paris Opera, so you can find the Phantom. It's pretty amazing, the tours, the Paris Opera House. And actually, our hotel is called Vacances Bleues Opera, so it's really it's close to the Opera House. And then we'll go to a museum, either the Louvre or the Orsay. Orsay is just the Impressionist collection of the Louvre. So we'll go to at least one museum. We will definitely go on a Seine River cruise, and we'll do it at night because then you see the Eiffel Tower lit up. And if you're there at midnight, it starts to sparkle, which is exciting. So we will do all of that and more. After 3 nights there, probably we're going to take the train under the English Channel through the Channel to London, and we have 3 nights in London. So we'll be going to the Musical Theatre Collection at the Victoria and Albert Museum. We are going to the Globe Theatre. The trip that I had planned in 2020, we were going to learn about stage fencing. We're going to actually all fence each other, so we'll see if that can happen again this year. But see where Shakespeare's Globe Theatre is. And then we will see a minimum of 2 musicals, and they're starting to announce what musicals are there. We actually have a credit of 1,100 pounds, British pounds, that I can spend from things that we didn't get refunded from the previous trip that got canceled. So we actually might be able to afford 3 musicals using that credit from before, which is kind of awesome. So we're there 3 nights. I know Wicked will be playing. I know Cabaret will be playing. I'm very interested in us seeing Cabaret because we will have just been in Munich in Germany. So we'll see, because they're starting to announce and open up more and more. But definitely 2 musicals, and my hope is more than that, and the West End. So the West End of London is the equivalent of Broadway. So basically at this point, what you've seen is the European influence of opera in Italy. You've seen the European influence of the Folies Bergère in Paris. That's where Ziegfeld got his idea for the Follies, and that's kind of where so we have opera and operetta, and we have Ziegfeld Follies, and that spectacle all kind of then growing into and adding in some minstrel stuff, which we'll talk about in Aida, because there's the topic of blackface and stuff. So we'll have all kinds of things to talk about. And then cabaret and the Holocaust, all that we're going to tie right in. But when we get to the West End is kind of, it's the equivalent of Broadway, and it's something that interestingly kind of did better than Broadway for a while, especially when like Phantom and Les Mis and all of those shows, Miss Saigon, all of those were West End productions that Broadway capitalized on later. So we'll be seeing how those two kind of play off of each other. So that's the West End in London. And then we will, right now it's a train ride, but it might be a flight up to, there's us. What else are we doing in London? Sorry, other things, we will go to all kinds of other things. This is 9-year-old Allegra. Pushing the cart at platform 9 3/4. You will definitely be in King's Cross, because that's the train that takes us up to Scotland. So anyway, we'll have all kinds of fun. Scotland, then, we're ending the trip up in Edinburgh, Scotland. Edinburgh has a classical music festival called, aptly enough, the Edinburgh Festival. But then a fringe festival started growing up on the fringes outside of it. So you have to pay money to go into the classical music festival, but then all of this free stuff started popping up outside of it, and some very cutting-edge theater, cutting-edge musical theater, and also fire-breathing everything. I saw amazing flamenco dancers there, whatever. So just a whole bunch of stuff. It takes over the whole Magic Mile. We will also go to the military tattoo, so we'll see all these it's like drum corps for bagpipes. It's amazing and spectacle, and it's right by the castle, and there's fireworks. And so you'll have, what you'll notice is, aside from the first day where, we're in Venice and we're just kind of getting our bearings, I will be giving you free time in every location. You will have time that is for you to explore. Once we get to Edinburgh, the town is what you're there to see. So you're very much on your own agenda at that point. And there will be extra things that you can choose to do, but the point is that you're going to just immerse yourself in this fringe festival. But if you want, there's extra things, like there's an 8-hour bus tour that takes you up to Loch Ness, which is really, really fun and beautiful, and you go see Hagrid's Hut and all that. So there's plenty of other things that we can add into this if you are interested. So that's where we're going. Cool? Thumbs up? Thumbs up. Okay. All right. So here's the skinny. All right. So I'm leading the trip, and I have 2 amazing co-leaders, helpers, Professor Sims and Professor Vitali, who is our bass instructor. So this is Vitali in Versailles with me. Okay, I know it's kind of blurry, but anyway. So he's helped me lead one of these trips before, and Professor Sims and I have been in the Dominican Republic before. So this is going to be a great team leading us through this. Okay, the dates right now, July 25th through August 10th. The reason I say right now is once I get a full list and you start paying into the trip and I have money to spend, if it turns out that it saves us a whole bunch of money to fly the day, like come home on the 11th rather than the 10th, then we'll do that. So if flying a day earlier or flying a day later or something like that saves a bunch of money and makes it more possible for us to do more fun things on the trip, I might, take the airlines up on that offer. So you should kind of plan on a buffer day on either side, and that will be solidified. Those flights will be set in stone by March. So it won't be like weeks off from this. It'll be like possibly scooch a day, okay? So that's where we are with the skinny. Who can go? Anybody. You have to be approved by Global Ed, but you don't have to be a Millersville student. You have to go through an application process, and at that point, they will do some checking up on you. If you're a Millersville student, they'll check up on things like, if you've gotten arrested for misbehaving in the dorms, they have information like that, right? So if there's something like criminal in your background that I don't know about you, Global Ed gets to find that out through your record. So they will say, and they have in the past said, so-and-so is not approved to go on this trip. Because you're an ambassador of Millersville and an ambassador of the U.S., and also especially now with a pandemic, we need people who are super mature and flexible and able to bring the adulting on when it's time. And of course, then have fun when it's time to have fun, okay? So you have to be approved. If you are not a Millersville person, and that even means people who recently graduated. So if you're here right now and will have graduated in the summer, they consider you a Millersville person. The people who are gonna go on the trip in 2020 who have graduated since, they are now considered no longer Millersville students. So they are going to have to go through a background check that will cost them something like $10 or $20, and it's just an FBI background check, and that's how Millersville is vetting that we're not taking criminals abroad with us, okay? So anybody has to do that, and that's all. So that's a change, because it used to be that you had to be affiliated with Millersville to go, and now you don't. You don't have to pay tuition, whatever. You just have to go through that one background check for them to say, yep, you are okay to go. And what my understanding is that when you apply, so if you have like a family member who's going to go or a best friend from another university or whatever, at the end of the application process, they will send an email with instructions on how to do. She said it takes 10 minutes, so it's a really short, it's not even as bad as getting your fingerprints or anything like that. So that's the mechanism for somebody who's not at Millersville to be eligible to go on the trip. Okay? What does it cost? $3,500. What does that get you? A whole bunch. So within that $3,500, you're going to get all your airfare, all your transportation. So you will not have to, unless you choose to take a taxi because you don't want to walk anymore. This will include all your transit passes, including your boat Vaporetto pass in Venice. It'll be all the trains, all of the planes, all the buses, all the boats, everything you need, okay? So all transit is covered in that. All the lodging is covered in that. There is an option if you feel, or your folks feel, or whoever's paying for this trip feels like they would feel more comfortable if you had a single room and you didn't room with someone else just because of a pandemic, then single rooms cost more because they just do. So you can upgrade to having your own room the whole time. Otherwise, you'll be rooming with one other person most of the time, possibly groups of 4, but I'm going to keep us in pods. In previous trips, I've wanted to mix it around so people don't get tired of each other, so you have different roommates throughout. For this, I'm going to keep us in pods so that you are a little bit more COVID protected, okay? So anyway, so all of your lodging is covered in this $3,500. It gets you every museum entrance, every show entrance, everything that is on the official itinerary. Now, of course, you can do something extra always. You have free time if you want to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower and drink drink juice. If you want to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, that's not included in the itinerary, but you absolutely can. So that'd be a thing that you'd add on. But as far as every show that we go to, everything we go to as a group is covered in this, including the Seine River cruise. So you can see the Eiffel Tower, but if you want to go to the top, you have to pay for it yourself. All the museums, all the sites, and usually, and that's in parentheses because it's not always, but usually there's one meal a day that's covered. Just because when we stay in hotels, often I try to get us free breakfast, and if you're crafty, you can sneak out some of that breakfast for snacks for later. So, so that's how it goes. Sometimes I have us staying in apartments, and then there's not a meal plan with that, obviously. So that's why I say usually. Okay. So that's what it gets you. What does it not get you? Let's go back. What does it not get you? That's on a future slide, but it doesn't get you souvenirs. So if you want to buy souvenirs, that's extra. And it doesn't get you all of your meals, but I kind of figure you're going to eat whether you're here or whether you're there. So there's that. So, and as far as eating, I'll be doing lots of guiding you as far as if you want to spend a lot of money on food, and you might want to have one night that you do escargot or something super fancy. I can help you with that, but I like to save money when I'm there on food and spend it in other things. So I find that the things that we do that save money also bring us closer to the culture, like going to the supermarket rather than sitting at an expensive restaurant can be a really cool way to engage in the culture. Going to a farmer's market or the market that's in the square and having to try to, deal with money with locals is way more fun for me than being like just sitting in a tourist trap of a restaurant. So that's where we are. Okay, contingencies. If the 3 weeks or 16 days, I guess. If the 16-day trip is a little bit long for you, there is an option, and it's on that flyer. There's an option to just go to London and Edinburgh. So if you want to only be gone 1 week, but you still want to do this, you can do that. Rusty, my husband, is going to be flying to London, the same airport, so Newark, from Newark to London on the 3rd of August. So his job will be to bring whomever wants to come on that part of the trip only, to bring them to meet the group. And then whoever comes just on that shorter trip will still fly home with everyone. So that's an option if you feel like that's a little safer for you or works better for your schedule. And that costs $2,100. Okay? So that is an option to do a shorter version and meet the group in progress. So I know that seems like a lot of money for college people, but really it's not. Sarah, do you feel like giving me an amen on that?
Yeah, it's not a lot.
So you went to Europe on a 10-day trip, right?
Yes.
And how much did that cost? Ish?
Maybe around the same or even more.
Oh, I thought it was, because I looked at it for my kids, it was like 5,000 for a 10, yeah. And okay, so anyway, how are we doing that? It is really pretty inexpensive. The most expensive thing on the docket there is the flight to Europe and back. That's the expensive part. So how are we doing it? Well, we're not staying in four-star hotels. We're staying in places that are right in the center of the activity, which is important to me, which means it's not at a Holiday Inn or something, because those are the places that are out in the suburbs where tour buses can go. We stay in town where sometimes cars can't even go, so you have to walk and use mass transit, which I think immerses you in the culture more than being kind of, locked into a tour bus where you're just all doing this together and kind of staring out at the culture like you're at Busch Gardens or something. Instead, you're very much involved in like a temporary local. You're being local for a while, and you're seeing like, how do people who live here do this? We'll stay in hotels, again, that are not 4-star hotels probably, but they're clean and they're safe. They're all hotels I've been to, and they're centrally located and probably not fancy, but how much do you want to be in the hotel when you're over in Europe? Like, you want to go there to sleep and to get yourself clean and to do some laundry occasionally. And otherwise, unless you're ill, you probably don't want to be in that hotel, right? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, how beautiful the wallpaper is in the hotel is not really a factor for me, because I don't spend that much time there. Okay? But is it clean? Yes. Is it safe? Yes. Is it centrally located? Yes. Those are the things that I care about. Sometimes we'll be staying in apartments, I love that. I try to do that as much as possible because then they have kitchens, and then that means you can go to the supermarket and you can save some money by cooking pasta or whatever that you can find. You pool your resources with your friends. It's super fun. We had in our 2019 trip this great kind of group chat where people would be like, I have some extra olive oil in apartment blah 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 if anyone needs olive oil, and it was really, really fun. It was great. Plus then you have to figure out what's olive oil in these different languages, if that's what you're looking for. So it's I prefer the kitchenettes and the apartments. I was in Europe this summer and we stayed in apartments almost exclusively, except for if it was the night before a flight or something and we had to stay out at the airport. You're going to, I'll do a whole class on this in the spring, but you're going to take one piece of luggage and one personal item and you're going to live on that for 16 days. And that is going to be partially how we do this so cheaply, which means that you carry your own luggage and you can really quick hop on a train and you can hop on mass transit and you don't have to wait for a bellhop to bring you your luggage. So that is part of it, is that we travel light. You learn how to do your laundry in the sink. You learn that you don't need a blow dryer, things like that. So that's also, and not having to pay money to check a bag is really important. So that's how we do it. But never fear. If I can live out of a backpack that is that big for 4 weeks at a time, it can be done. And I'll teach you how. What? You learn. And then you also kind of learn how little you really need. Okay, this summer, I went to Europe. I was there you were there for 5 weeks, right? 4 weeks? And I was there for 3 weeks. So I went when the trip was going to happen and then got canceled. So I decided, heck, I'm going to just go to Europe. And I justified it by saying I was doing research for this trip, so I could see how it's working in a pandemic. So I'm going to share some of the thing. You'll notice this is the elephant in the room, COVID. Okay. All right. So here's what I can tell you based on my experience last summer. Of course, this is going to be a year later, but based on what I've experienced already, you should expect vaccination passports or proof of vaccination to be required. All the shows in London, if you don't have a vaccination proof or you don't have a current negative test, you're not going to be allowed to be an audience member right now in those shows. And I don't think that they're going to open up completely 100%. I think that's going to be a thing for a while. So while Millersville can't require that you get vaccinated, I'm just telling you that a lot of the stuff on the itinerary will, if you're not vaccinated, you will kind of have to sit outside and wait for the rest of us. So that's something to keep in mind. So you won't be required to be vaccinated, but if you want to do any of this stuff while you're over there, and there are some countries that may at that point require vaccination. So you want to be fully available to do everything on the itinerary. So expect that vaccination is a thing that in Europe they're gonna want most of the places that we go. So this summer I had several countries where I had to submit my vaccination card in order to be allowed in. I had to be tested. I got tested 4 times, and they weren't free. So I had to, it depended on, sometimes it was the airline that required the testing. Sometimes it was the country that you were flying to next. But I will build that in and I will help get us all tested when necessary and all that. But expect that testing may be an added thing that happens if you want to be able to move, because we've got 6 countries on this itinerary. So if we want to be able to cross borders, you're going to have to play whatever those countries' games are. I just imagine that masks are still going to be a thing, especially on the overseas flight, on the 7-hour flight or whatever. Requirements are fluid. So even while I was there this summer, different countries kind of changed their requirements as far as if they needed a PCR test or whatever. So the requirements are going to change between now and July. I will keep up on the stuff. I will keep up on it while we're there, and I will make the adjustments needed. So this is a new thing. It used to be if you didn't want to take an iPhone or an iPad or something, it didn't matter. I think that you are all going to want to have some device, because every border crossing that I did, I was given, and every time I did a test, like a COVID test, I was given a QR code. And we aren't going to travel with a printer to print out your stuff from the laptop, right? So you're probably going to each need to have a way to show a QR code on an iPad or an iPhone or a phone, right? So plan that in. That's going to be probably not go away. That kind of so you're going to show your passport and here's my QR code that Germany knows I'm coming today, right? Whatever. So I think that that's going to be essential. I'll let you know if that changes, but that's my guess. I don't think the trip is going to get canceled, because they desperately need tourists. And I went this summer, you went this summer, it's opening up for better or for worse, right, as far as the spread of COVID. So I'm feeling confident that this trip won't get canceled. And what I will tell you is that your first payment, if you're going on this, is due January 15th. Millersville won't deposit that money until they're pretty sure that the trip is happening. So if they deposit that money, then the trip is going, basically. Or it would have to be another huge disaster that grounds the trip, okay? So that's what I can tell you. I don't think Europe's going to close. I don't think they can afford to close. And if we feel like it's safe to go and enough people are vaccinated that the spread is down, I think it's going to happen. So that's my very honest assessment with you. Okay, I'm going to tell you some more information, then I'm definitely going to take questions. Course credit may be available. If you want to take the class as a class, you have to pay for the tuition for the class as well. If you want to use financial aid to help you cover, you need to take 6 credits over the summer to let your financial aid kick in. But your financial aid can help cover the cost of the trip, because that's part of the curriculum, is that we're going to these places. So it is a class need, just like a textbook would be. So if you want to use financial aid, you don't have to take 6 credits in summer 3, but throughout the 3 sessions of the summer, you need to amass 6 credits for financial aid to kick in. Okay, and the people over in international programs and services can help you navigate that. So if you want to take it, it will for credit. It'll be called American Broadway Musicals, and it will be 3 credits, and it will count as a G1 for music majors if you want it to count. The dean has given special permission to make it count as a G1. Technically, it's not, because it's a MUSI class, right? But if you want it to count as one of your G1s, the dean says okay. And then possibly you could take an independent study with Professor Sims on language diction. So that could be your 6 credits if you wanted. The payments are as follows. The first 1,000 on January 15th, the second 1,000 on March 1st. Those have to be large, because I'm gonna buy the tickets and all of that. So that's why those payments, we kind of front load how expensive it is at first. The last payment on May 1st is the $500 one. And if we fundraise or something and get some of the last payment knocked to a lower amount, groovy. It won't go higher than 500. So I won't come back to you and say, oh, I know I told you the trip cost $3,500, but now it's really $3,800. I won't do that, okay? So those are the installments, and it's because I have to start buying things for the trip. So that's why we have to start paying that early. And I will secure the flights. By February 1st, I should have the flights secured. Okay? Additional costs. So this was something I thought was on an earlier slide, but here it is. So in addition to that $3,500, there's an application fee through Millersville, because they're processing all this stuff. So that's a $60 fee that goes to them. And that's for anybody going on the trip, not just Millersville people. You'll have to get some insurance. It was ISIC, but they may have a different insurance that they have you get that will include COVID stuff on it. Okay, so you will have to pay, and you can pay the bare bones insurance, or you can upgrade if you feel more comfortable with more coverage, just like any other insurance. Spotify, I'll have you get Spotify Premium for a month. So you could probably do it as a freemium, right? If you don't want to pay for it, and then cancel it. But that's how you're going to be able to download stuff that we're listening to on the train and stuff, prepping us for the next thing. Yeah, Sarah.
Is Apple Music fine?
Yeah. Yep, Apple Music will be fine. Smartphone or iPad, like I mentioned, because QR codes at border crossings, and then COVID testing. The cheapest COVID test I got at an airport this summer was 21 euros, and the most expensive was here in the U.S. at the Philly airport was $70. That was just because Rite Aid didn't get me my results in time, so I had to pay $70. But so somewhere around $30 a test is what it was running this summer over in Europe. Okay, so I'm not including that in the cost because I don't know how many times or if we will even need it. But if a country requires you to have a test to get in, that'll be part of what you have to pay for. Yeah, Sarah.
I know, like, right now, like, here, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, so show your vaccination card. When you went, was it a time where they would ask for a vaccination card and a COVID test? Or, like, you show them your vaccination card and they'd be like, okay,
It depended. It was super fluid. Some countries didn't care if I was vaccinated. They wanted to see that I didn't have COVID. Some countries didn't care if I had a test. They wanted to see if I was vaccinated. So I don't know what it'll be, but the EU keeps talking about having vaccine passports for the EU citizens. I don't know if by this summer it'll be something where we can kind of have a vaccine passport too, or something that we register with the EU, or the different countries. I'm not sure, but I will be on it as it develops, and I will be sure to let everybody know. But yeah, I will talk about too, like, how do you store your documents so that you can prove all the things that you need. We'll talk about that when we get closer to the trip and we're packing and stuff like that. So if you want to go on the trip, what should you do next? If you don't have a passport, start, like, this should be your thing to do over Thanksgiving. Definitely over Christmas, if you need your passport renewed. So if you were under the age of 18 when you got your passport, then they only last for 5 years. Once you're over 18, it lasts for 10 years. And some countries won't let you in if your passport is set to expire within 6 months. So just know that. So if you need to get a passport, start now. You do need to make appointments. You can do them lots of places, like the post office or whatever, but you can't walk in anymore. The days of walking in and saying, I'd like to get a passport now are over. So start now. One of the things that will happen when you get a passport, and you may do it when you get the passport, or you might have to do it ahead of time, is you'll have to get a passport photo. You can do it like for $8 at CVS. They will give you an extra of your passport photo. They'll give you like 2 copies of your photo. Keep the extra one. You'll give one probably to the passport, and it will actually be on your passport. But the other one, keep, and we'll take it with us. Because if you lose your passport and we have to do a quickie, go to the consulate and try to get you documents so you can keep traveling, having the passport photo will help you. Okay, so don't throw that away. Don't worry about it if you have already thrown away an earlier one, but if you're getting your passport photo now, just go ahead and keep the spare, okay? The IPS application, that's International Programs and Services, that's, sometimes I slip up and call it by its old name, Global Ed. So if you've heard me say Global Ed handles that, that's what this is, International Programs and Services. They are the ones who are gonna vet and decide who can go on the trip. And so you start filling out that application. Has anyone filled it out or started yet? Tucker, how far are you along in the?
I think I'm like halfway through.
Halfway through. Yeah, it's something you can visit, you can come back to. And they ask a lot of questions like, why do you want to go on this? And what is your experience traveling internationally and whatever. I do read that, but you don't have to do a whole dissertation on like Brexit. If you just mention that it's happening and that whatever. So it can take a while and seem kind of daunting, but you can come back to it. You don't have to do it in one setting. And there's a bunch of checklists that eventually you'll buy your insurance and you'll have to upload that, and then that'll get checked off and all that. So it's a process. You won't get it done over, in one night, but go ahead and get it started. If you're not a Millersville person, once you get through that process, then they will give you further instructions on how to get your background check that you need. I would like you to tell me too, so that's what, if you're in the room, you have this baby aspirin color paper that the earlier I know, like obviously you're not going to pay till January, but if you're like, I am 99% sure I'm going, then I can start planning. So even if you're like, I'm 80%, like some of you have already been like, I'm at 85, and then the next week I'm at 90, so let me know, because it does help me to start planning. And it is going to be a little more of a puzzle just because I'm going to try to do the pods so that we all have each other's germs and not more germs than we need. So keep me apprised of where you are in your decision, whether you can go or not, okay? And then watch for info in the spring. In the spring, once we've got I'll do more of these, and they will also be on Zoom, and we will do a pre-departure Zoom this summer, like the day or two before we go. We'll do something where I'll have some of you in the room if you live close, and we'll weigh your luggage and all that stuff. But so watch for info in the spring. Those are kind of your next steps. Get a passport, even if you don't go on this trip. You just have a passport. It's just a thing you should have. It's another form of ID, and the real ID, if you don't have a real ID and you're a Pennsylvania person, you can't get on an airplane after some date coming up anyway, so I always fly with my passport anyway. So do these things. That's what you do next. All right. Before we go on, let me see what questions there are. Okay, do we have some from the chat?
There are two in the chat.
Okay.
One says, how much in euros and cash do you recommend having on a person in addition to our travel funds and cards?
Okay, the question is how much money in cash, in euros and cash and all that you should have in addition to having credit cards. So I don't really land with very much cash. I go to ATMs once I'm there. And I'll talk you through that. That's part of the safety and security, is that you will have a money belt. You will wear clothes over it. This is not how you wear your money belt. I mean, it's how you wear it, but then you don't expose it to the world. The point is, pickpockets can't really get to it. So what I do is when I get to Europe or get to a new country with a different currency, I go to an ATM and I get a large amount. So there'll be a limit, some, like in Portugal, I think we could only get 200 euros at a time or something, right? So there'll be a limit, but keep in mind that even if you have a really good bank, you're going to incur some international transaction fees. So it is more economical for you to go get 200 euros out and stuff it in your money belt than it is to go to the ATM twice a day and get 20 euros in here and 20 euros there, because each one of those is going to incur a fee. So if you want, you can order pounds and euros ahead of time and have some for when you land. But more and more, I use credit cards anyway. The stuff where you need cash, we will already have been in the country by the time you need cash. You'll need cash for things like if you go to the farmer's market, in the square, they aren't going to take a credit card probably. So, but you won't need that the minute we land. Anything that you need when we land in an airport or something, you'll totally be able to use a credit card. Yeah, Ashley.
So our credit cards and debit cards work?
Yep, your credit cards and your debit cards work. Depending on your bank, you need to probably tell them that you're going. And I always, and I'll guide you through this in the spring too, but I always take at least 2 credit cards just in case one, even when you tell your bank, like I'll be in Italy, sometimes it still flags it as fraud. So if you have a backup card until you can convince your first credit card that no, I really am in Italy, it's good to have a backup. So I usually travel with 2 credit cards and my ATM card. And then I usually will renew or get a new card when I get home. Like, just have them send me a new one in case somebody swiped the numbers off of it. So I'll talk you through all those money details. But that's it. If you want to order from like Wells Fargo or AAA, can get you some currency here, but I don't think you need it until we land there. I think it'll be a better exchange rate if you do that in the country anyway. What's the other question from the chat?
I'm just asking for the link to the application.
Oh, the links to the... You're having trouble finding it?
Yeah, but the IPS website's kind of whacked.
The IPS website's a little bonkers. I will look for it in a minute. If you can pull it up, that would be swell. I have it somewhere. Just give me a second. I'm going to stop sharing for just a hot minute. Hi, everybody at home. Hold on, because I sent it to someone. Don't read my email. Okay, I sent it. Was it to Kelsey? Let me see. Can't remember. Aha! You can start an application from this website. Okay. All right. I'm going to put this in the chat for the people at home. And then if you want this website, where is my chat? Under more chat. There we go. If you want this website, send me an email and I'll send you the link. But that is where it is. Okay. Cool. Good question. All right. What about in the room? What questions are there? Sarah? Yeah.
This is a question about like the real ID. Is it like the ID card? Is that like the real ID thing?
You don't need the real ID. I'm just saying, like, your driver's license won't allow you to fly domestically after, when is it? Next October or something? If you don't have the real ID. That's why I always fly, because I'm not going to get a special driver's license. I'm just going to keep using my passport. So I'm just telling you, you won't even need a driver's license at all, unless you are going to drive when you land, and then you should have your driver's license on you. But it's just one more thing to lose, so I wouldn't take my thing. Okay, approximately how much is the travel insurance? And will medical transport? So I think medical transport will probably be a thing you can upgrade to. I haven't looked at the latest one because there's like, pre-COVID when the risk was really low, it was like a $25 or $35. Do you remember what it was? $35, and it was very bare bones. And it basically covered, if our flight gets canceled and the airlines are being poops about it, and we have to spend another night in a hotel and take the next morning flight, like, it'll cover that kind of stuff. So what I would do if you're concerned about that is just upgrade. And you could probably substitute. You don't have to use, IPS will take care of this, but you don't have to use their travel insurance if you have something better. It's that they want to make sure everyone is minimally covered. So you can do the bare bones, or you can absolutely upgrade. And that's up to you and your risk assessment. So there are travel insurance plans out there that do cover like medevacing you back to the States. If that's, you can totally choose that, but that's not going to be part of the minimum requirement that they have for you to go. I hope that answered that. See you. Yeah. Yeah, Ashley.
So we just have to like contact our insurance and be like, hey, I'm traveling, like, can we upgrade or something?
No, what I would tell you to do is go ahead and get the plan that they kind of push at you from IPS when you get through the application process. They'll try to kind of say, here's what we suggest. If you have something or your parents have something that is more beefed up than that, you could substitute for it. But I just always just do the one that they tell us to do. So there's that. Okay, what other questions are there? I know I gabbed a lot. I will be like, again, we'll have meetings as we get closer and closer to departure where I talk to you about how you do the money thing, how like we'll go actually itinerary point by itinerary point, how we stay safe, how do we keep from getting pickpocketed, how do you keep from standing out as a target of somebody who would be pickpocketed, all that stuff. We'll talk you through all of it. Adam, do you have a question? Okay. Kaylee, okay.
Are there opportunities for like scholarships or like grants specific to the trip, or is
Yes. There are some that aren't specific to my trip, but that are specific to international travel. Yeah. Okay, so here's the deal to answer the question in the chat. So if Millersville thinks the trip is going and starts depositing your money, then it'll go. But if like 2 weeks before we go, you're not, like, we can't go for some reason, then you will get refunded whatever I get refunded. That's why they're not going to deposit your money until they're pretty darn sure that this is a viable trip. So it may be that you pay in January 15th and they don't deposit it till March 1st. They might sit on it and wait and see what conditions are. So at that point, so the people who got canceled because of COVID, they got to use CARES Act and they got a full refund. But if we get canceled, it'll be so last minute that you won't probably get a full refund. And I don't think, like, if we take your money, I don't think the trip is getting canceled. So that's the best answer I have for that. Yeah, Ashley.
What forms of payment do you accept for the?
They do cash, credit card, which I don't think you should do because you'll probably have a fee, a convenience fee. I would do cash or check or money order.
What would the check be made out to?
They'll tell you. It's made out to Millersville University, but you don't bring it to me anymore. You bring it over to them, and they handle all the money.
We'll like figure that out later.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good question. What else? What else? Who's excited? Yeah? Okay. The other thing is that, especially for the people who were going to go before and got canceled, like, if you've got something special that you really want, like I know some of you want to be opera singers, if you want to not go to one of the musicals and instead you want to go to an opera, like, talk to me. I can help you to, like, substitute some things so that you're really getting what you want out of this trip. So let's be in contact and all of that. So thanks, everybody.